Once upon a time, there was a poor man who made his living by cutting down trees and selling the wood for people to use in their cooking fires. Life was hard, but it was all he knew. One day, as he traveled to a nearby village to sell his wood, he came across an old friend from his youth. To his surprise, his friend, who had once been as poor as he, was now incredibly wealthy. "How did you become so rich?" the poor man asked in amazement. But his old friend simply smiled and said nothing, leaving the poor man puzzled. Determined to learn the secret, he asked the villagers how his friend had acquired such wealth. They told him that one day, while cutting wood in the forest, his friend had encountered a fairy who had given him a great treasure. From that moment on, his friend's fortunes had turned, and he had become prosperous. The poor man sighed deeply. "So it's just luck," he thought. "Only the lucky ones become successful. There's no other way." For days, he was filled with bitterness and despair. It seemed to him that no amount of hard work would ever change his fate, unless, perhaps, he was fortunate enough to meet the same fairy. One day, he returned to the forest to cut more wood, still weary from his thoughts. As he wandered among the trees, something extraordinary happened. He saw the same fairy his friend had met. His heart raced with excitement, convinced that his time had come. Surely the fairy would bestow upon him the same treasure, and he too would finally be rich. The fairy smiled at the poor man and said, "Poor man, I have a gift for you. Here is a tree that only you can see. Whenever you cut it, it will regrow within a few seconds. You can use it as much as you like. But I will take it back after 1 year." The man stared at the tree, somewhat disappointed. "A tree?" he thought. "Where is my treasure?" But then, he reasoned, at least he wouldn't have to search the forest for new trees anymore. He could simply cut this magical tree and sell the wood again and again. For the next year, the man did just that. He cut the tree, shaped the wood into pieces suitable for burning, and sold it to the villagers. It made his life easier, but in truth, not much had changed. He wasn't richer or happier. He had simply continued living as he always had, without thinking much of the possibilities before him. After a year, the fairy returned and took the tree away, just as she had promised. Only then did the man realize that an entire year had passed, and he was no better off than before. Angry and frustrated, he cursed the fairy. "You tricked me!" he shouted. "You gave me a tree that made no difference in my life. My friend became rich, but I gained nothing from your so-called gift." The fairy listened patiently, and then, with a sad expression, asked, "What did you do with the tree I gave you?" The man explained how he had cut the tree repeatedly and sold the wood for firewood, just as he had always done. Hearing this, the fairy burst into laughter. "I gave you a magical tree," the fairy said, "one that regrew endlessly. With that wood, you could have made furniture, built homes, or crafted anything valuable that people would pay handsomely for. Instead, you chose to sell it for cooking fires, just as you had always done. You never saw the potential in the gift I gave you." The man's heart sank as he realized the truth. His friend had received the same tree, but had recognized the opportunity within it. His friend had used the wood to make beautiful furniture and sell it for a high price. That was how his friend had become rich, not by luck, but by seeing the potential in the gift he had been given. The man hung his head in shame. "I understand now," he said softly. "I was so focused on my old ways that I didn't see the new possibilities. I thought success would just come to me without effort or thought." The fairy smiled kindly. "It's never too late to learn. Opportunities are often right before you, but it's how you use them that makes all the difference." From that day on, the man vowed never to overlook the value of the gifts he was given. He became more thoughtful and creative with the resources he had, and over time, he began to prosper. He learned that success wasn't a matter of luck, but of vision, hard work, and the ability to see the potential in every opportunity. Moral of the story: success is not a matter of luck, but of how you recognize and use the opportunities in front of you. Often, we are given resources or chances, but it is our creativity, effort, and vision that turn them into something valuable. The key to success lies in our ability to see beyond the obvious and make the most of what we have.